So, welcome to another episode of Curo's podcast, Standing Out in the Cloud. Today, we're really excited to be joined by Mark Riminton. Mark is a business coach and he focuses on working with owner-managed businesses. So, he's had quite a long-standing relationship with Curo. And it'd be good to just have a chat with you. And right now in the world, this is a really hot topic of how people can invest in their staff and their teams and how that can be beneficial for them for the future. So, let's get going. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Sarah. How nice to see you. Thank you for inviting me to take part in your project.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's 19 years since I first got involved with Curo. I was there not quite on day one, but certainly on day two, when Karen Field and Mark Sewell contacted me about helping them define the values of the company, which was really interesting because mostly people contact me because they've got some problem that they want to solve.
Yeah.
Some kind of inefficiency or something they're doing that they'd like to do better, that kind of issue. But Mark and Karen, their first thought with Curo, once they'd established a business model for the company, the first thought they had was, what are the values we're going to operate this business with? And we spent a very happy day together working through what the company's values should be and how that would translate into company strategy and operations. And that's where we came up with the three pillars, as I call them, of Curo's existence, which are, what are they, Sarah?
Integrity, care, and respect.
Absolutely. Integrity, care, and respect.
Good job I got those right, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. They put you on the spot there.
Yeah.
And they're significant because, as you know, Curo is a people business. In my mind, businesses fall into two camps. There are product businesses, which focus on developing, marketing, selling, and supporting products, like BMW cars, for example. And there are relationship businesses, which are primarily about putting people together to create added value. And Curo definitely falls into the second bucket of companies. And so to start with, what are the values that we're going to operate the business with? How are we going to treat our team members? How are we going to treat our contractors? How are we going to treat our customers? Was really, in my view, a really significant first step that Curo made. And I think I'm right in saying that those values have stayed with the company throughout the 19 years and will go on into the future. And everybody that I work with inside Curo now, as the company has grown, really find it very comforting that the company is so explicit about those values.
Yeah, I think we've spoken about this several times before on the other podcasts as well, is that is the one thing that resonates throughout, no matter who we deal with in the business, whether that be customer, whether that be experts that we're speaking to, external coaches, it completely resonates throughout and it will continue to, as you say. But I think it's really important to talk about how did you get here into this role? Like, what made you think that, this coaching side of things is what you wanted to go down?
Yeah. Yes. Well, I can give you a quick potted history of my brilliant career. I started out a long, long time ago working in public relations and corporate communications. And for some reason, I was the only person in the office who understood what a computer was. We're going back now to the dawn of the personal computer world. We're going back a long time. And so I got lumped with all the computer clients that were coming into the markets that the agency was winning business from. And so I was just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I don't have a technical background, but I've always been able to translate engineer speak into English.
Yeah.
And that sole skill, if you like, has run right the way through my long time of working now. And then the other thing that happened to me was that I started working with a consortium of large computer companies back in the long time ago, called X-Open, which was a sort of a consortium of businesses trying to break the stranglehold that IBM had at the time on the computer industry. So I worked closely with 4 or 5 major companies, major at the time, ICL, Sun Microsystems, Oracle, various companies. Some of them don't exist anymore, of course. But it gave me a huge insight into the way the computer industry works. I spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley and working with some key players at the time. So it was really interesting and a lot of fun. And that has sort of informed my latter career. Eventually, I decided to add more skills and trained as a business coach back in 2003, I think, but 20 odd years ago, because I wanted to work with businesses on their strategies rather than the output, their communications. And so I feel I've got a kind of soup to nuts offer now, which involves working with businesses on their direction, their overall strategies, their operations, helping the businesses become more efficient through team building and optimization of people's talents, and through the delivery of what people do. So with Curo as an example, I think I work with Curo on a couple of levels. Firstly, I facilitate meetings for Curo. I've facilitated a number of board meetings and extraordinary meetings where the company's come together to redefine its vision or work on the kind of bigger picture stuff. Then I work with teams. So, Sarah, you'll know that I work with the leadership team in Curo, and we have regular retreats, as I call them, but a couple of days away where we focus on issues that aren't necessarily operational, but are more about improving the way the company operates. And I also work with people one-to-one, which has been great because now I'm working with the next generation of people coming through the business and helping them understand their own strengths and how to optimize those and how to get the best out of each other. So does that answer your question? I think
many different levels. Yeah. And why do you think it's important for companies to invest in things in coaching like this, and not just from a business overall, but from an individual perspective? Why is it that we're only starting to see people really see the value in this fairly recently? It seems.
Interesting. Yeah, I've always been an early adopter of technology and other things. And way back in the early 90s, I discovered a guy who was then called a personal development guru, a guy called Anthony Robbins, who's
I've got his book. I've got one of his books.
Somebody took me along to one of his meetings in London way back then, and I must say it was a life-changing experience for me because I recognized that, like many people, I had so many things holding me back all the time.
Yeah.
Little voices that were saying, "Oh, you can't do that," or "You're doing that wrong," or you can't really get involved with that. It's not your place. Those kind of voices that many of us have. And he kind of showed me over the period of a couple of years where I went to various of his events and read all his stuff. He taught me that that's not reality. That's not the truth. That's just a mask of fear that we cover ourselves with. And that if we can find ways of breaking through that in various ways, in various areas of our lives, we can significantly improve the quality of our lives. And so it was that really got me started. And Tony Robbins, and then subsequently many other people I've read and worked with, and it's been a life-changing experience for me and my family.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a Marmite character as well, isn't he, Tony Robbins?
Yes, and he's still doing it, Sarah. He's still out there.
They really love him, or they don't like his style at all. But,
do you know? I just saw on YouTube that he ran an 3-day online workshop, and over 1 million. It was free. Over 1 million people attended. Isn't that incredible?
That's the one you sent us, wasn't it, recently?
Yes, it was. Yeah, I sent it.
Yeah, I've got it to go back to, but Mark actually attended it and he really rated it, and actually his books as well. I think that it's this all of a sudden, but why is it? I don't know what you think. Like lately, all of a sudden in the world, people are very much more focused on themselves and how to develop themselves, and this coaching side of people's lives is not just in business now; it's also in their everyday lives. We're seeing more around, manifestation, visualization, and all these things that we hear people talk about in the business coaching is now filtering into life. Why do you think that is now and it wasn't back in
Yeah, okay, let's reflect on that. I think in the business world, the shape of our economy, anyway, here in Britain, anyway, has changed a lot over the last 30 years. There's been a decline in manufacturing and a rise in services, and all those skills that were associated with manufacturing, engineering, design, project management, those kind of things have diminished, and the sort of skills that are in the ascendant are the relationship skills, are the skills that people need in order to get on with other people. As Tony Robbins once said, the quality of our lives depends entirely on the quality of our communication. I think I probably said that to you at various times.
I've seen that one in a workshop, I think.
Yeah. And so it's those soft skills, those people skills that are more needed in our economy now.
Yeah.
And so hard skills still important, but diminishing, soft skills in the ascendant. So people are they're forced to look to themselves. How can I achieve more? How can I get on better? How can I be more persuasive how can I win sales by being a better person? All of those things are much higher up the agenda and the conversation.
Yeah. And I think in life, in how we teach our children, I think you saw a post I put on recently on LinkedIn around a podcast I watched with Stephen Bartlett about the 7-Eleven 4. And they were saying exactly the same thing, that in schools you have, this world that they're being educated for, which is the industrial era. It no longer exists. We're in the digital era. So personal brand and things like that are now becoming more to the forefront. And it's how we get this way of working and coaching into schools. And is that, I mean, I know you've worked in the education sector before. Is that something that you're seeing or you anticipate seeing in the future in education?
I'd love to see more coaching style leadership in schools. It is coming. We hear and read about visionary head teachers who are using coaching techniques more and more. But as you point out, the curriculum itself is still way behind. It's still, not to say that information isn't important and learning isn't important, but when we've got our web browsers and our search engines and our AI, information is available in a millisecond. We don't have to know it. We can find it so easily.
Delivering it, isn't it? How you deliver this
it's how do you interpret it and how do you communicate that becomes the important thing. And I also think, sorry, just finish this. Also think it's generational. As I said before, I felt I was an early adopter back, whatever it was, 30 years ago, getting into this stuff. Obviously, there were people before me, but I was pretty early on. So my children are now growing up with that kind of ethos in the family. And so they expect it elsewhere as well. They expect it when they go to work. Okay, where's my coach? My son says to his employer. And so there's an expectation that you can get help with improving yourself in the business context.
Yeah, and that leads me on quite nicely. Where do you start when you find you have a business that wants to work with you? You've just said there that obviously each business will need a different way of communicating or a different way of what they want to achieve. Where do you start when you have a business that says, right, we need some support? Where do you start from a term of being a plan?
Yeah, the first step is a fact find. So get the call, meet the business, preferably face to face. I mean, I will do it online, but I prefer face to face because, as I'm sure I've said to you in the various of our retreats, there's some magic that comes to when people come together. Yeah. Face to face fact find, and I've got my 20 questions about the history of the business, where it is today, and where they want to take it tomorrow. And during all the answers, I'm running through a kind of assessment in my mind of what are the real issues, the underlying issues. Because what you hear about is the symptoms, like when you go to the doctor, oh, my toe hurts, could be 100 different things. What's the underlying problem?
Yeah.
So that's what I go for. I try and understand the underlying issues. There are usually three. That's just by the way. Understand those three key issues and then build a coaching program around those, exploring those, maybe bringing in some new knowledge about those, helping people understand things I use a whole series of what I call models or frameworks that help people see things in a more objective way. I mean, the challenge, particularly in owner-managed businesses, is that people get very close to their work. It becomes part of their lives in a very integral way. And so sometimes it's really important to be able to stand back from that and look at it more objectively and have someone like me asking difficult questions to help you get a different perspective on your business, which can lead to better decision making.
Yeah. These also, why 3, by the way? Just
3's the magic number, Sarah.
just always the way. It's always the 3.
Always 3.
Oh, that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, obviously being part of some of these workshops myself, quite often it encourages you, or not encourages you, it facilitates you to talk about things that you might not want to maybe bring up, or you haven't had the opportunity to talk about before, and it can bring out some really interesting conversations. But how do you apply that to, then you have different levels within the business that you work with, or you have different individuals, and how do you apply a similar structure for each individual but adapt it to them, or do you adapt the other way around, vice versa?
Yeah, there's a lot of process involved. When I'm facilitating a group, for example, your leadership group in Curo, my process involves everybody writing down what their issues are that they want to bring. And then we make a long list of those on a whiteboard or a flip chart so that it becomes a third-party thing. It's no longer my issue, but it's the issue that we need to address. And it sounds simple, doesn't it? Just writing it on the wall. But actually it makes a huge difference because suddenly you're looking at it rather than internalizing it. Yeah. And if you can go around the room collecting everybody's issues and then use that as an agenda for running a meeting, it's an incredibly simple but really powerful thing to do.
Yeah.
Now, working with individuals, I use a similar process, but in a much more intimate way. So I get people to write down their issues on a piece of paper in front of them, and then we talk about those. And just the act of writing them down is actually really helpful.
Yeah, I think it's really such a simple thing that you don't actually realize. We've just undertaken this communication challenge with yourself, but that was probably I think that was one of the best moments so far of our work with you. And now we're hearing the seniors in the team talk about this challenge as well, and how they're struggling. Oh, I've got to apply this, and these are the points I'm really struggling with, and it gets you really, really talking. But most of us also try to apply that. What I found interesting was a lot of us in the in the leadership team approached it and used it in our personal lives as well as our professional lives. And then I spoke to one of the seniors yesterday and I said, oh, you want to try using it on the kids? Just see how that changes things. And they were like, oh, I hadn't thought about using it outside of the, my professional world. So it's just so interesting how it's not only business coaching, is it? It is literally, it is life coaching that you can take and apply wherever you are in life. But the communication challenge is something that I think most people, in fact, if not everyone, should try at some point. And is communication the key to everything, I suppose?
It's the currency of life, isn't it? Communication. Yeah. And I did some NLP training some years ago, and that helped me. That's neuro-linguistic programming, which is a very fancy way of talking about the power of language. And it's not just the language I use talking to you in this conversation, but it's also the language that I'm using talking to myself all the time. And I have found in my direct experiences that the more positive the language I use in talking to myself, the better my life is. Again, it sounds so simple and really, but actually it makes a big difference because we're listening all the time. Our minds are looking for things to grab onto. And so they ask us questions, and you can have that voice which brings you down, or you can't do that. That's not right for you. But you can also have that voice that lifts you up. So you can flip what is a holding back situation into an empowerment frame in your life.
Yeah.
Quite easily. It just takes practice.
How does that, how for you, you've obviously worked with Curo. What did we say earlier? Was it
19
19
years.
years?
Yeah.
That's crazy, isn't it? 19 years in some way, shape, or form with Curo. How do you keep what you do evolving for 19 years? Because obviously you want to continue to work with us for obvious reasons. One, it's a relationship that is just built over time, but two, it's your job. How do you keep that evolving so that you're working with us in 30 years?
Well, if I'm still here, I'd love to be working with you 30 years. Yes, well, you're asking about the magic herbs and spices now in the recipe.
KFC recipe.
But the key to it, the key to it is that it's not all me. I'm not doing something to Curo. I'm working with Curo, with the staff, with you to help you solve a problem. So my tools and techniques are just as valid now as they were 20 years ago when I started learning them. And they'll still be valid in 20 years' time because humans need to communicate, and the better, there's always going to be issues that we can solve by understanding each other and listening to each other in a better way, which is why we did this 12-day communication challenge, was to just in a very obvious way help people understand the power of listening and communicating with intent.
Yeah, that's definitely key. And like you say, I think that you could apply it throughout school, throughout whatever that is. But I think you've obviously worked with Just Curo, you've worked with other businesses. With the kind of mandate we're seeing at the moment from government, from everything, state of the economy, driving jobs, driving workforces, etc. Now what we're starting to see is companies looking at how we can do more with what we already have. But that's going to still require an investment of sorts. So, we want to coach our staff, but that means bringing a business coach in. Do you think we're going to see more companies try and adopt this style of coaching internally and in how they develop their teams?
Yes.
Why is it so important? It's not just about now giving more money.
Yes.
Do you think that we're going to start to see coaching happen internally? So almost having like a Curo coach, for example, that is full-time employee.
I have a friend and colleague, Julie Starr, who has built an entire career on teaching coaching skills to managers, in large companies, not in small ones. And yes, there is certainly demand for coaching skills for managers out there in the world. And it's really helpful because it involves helping empower people down the chain rather than delegating stuff, but actually empowering people to make their own choices and do better. So yes, definitely happening. Will it replace coaches like me? I don't think so, because there's still a value in having someone come in from outside, someone without an agenda. No, I don't have any concerns about my career path in Curo. And so I don't have that going on in my back mind. I come in as an innocent, if you like, into the circle to give a different perspective, and that would be hard to do if I was a Curo employee, I think.
Yeah,
That
external view.
Yeah, I had a friend who years ago worked as a consultant with a major food importing company, and she was a coach to the board. She was a consultant who went in and helped them make difficult decisions about supply chains and all kinds of things. And after a few years, they said, "Oh, would you like to come and join us as a non-executive director?" And she was very flattered and decided to take the opportunity. The moment she joined, the relationship changed. They didn't listen to her anymore. All they wanted to do was make sure that she wasn't treading on their turf or getting in their way.
Controlling the narrative almost.
Yeah, and she was really unhappy by having stepped inside. So it's not something I'm planning to do.
No, it's interesting, isn't it? It's like say as the companies evolve, that they're almost removing the value by taking control of a situation. In their mind, it's probably saving money or something some reason like that, isn't it, to try and do that. But
Yes.
what top 3 tips then would you give a company? One, they've got to be ready to embrace it, haven't they? They have to be ready.
You can't coach somebody if they don't want to be coached. It's not something I come and do to you.
Yeah.
It's definitely a participatory sport, and you've got to play full out. And I know that sounds rather hackneyed and obvious, but it's true. If you go in with reservations, then you're not going to get the best out of it.
No.
You've got to go in and be courageous with it and be honest with yourself. And that's the challenge really, is to step beyond the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, I hope you wouldn't mind, but if anyone has any questions or companies that have any questions on business coaching are able to reach out to you, we can certainly put people in touch with you as well. And I hope that, we continue to work with you for a really long time. I certainly enjoy our time with you, and I know we wouldn't have a relationship that's lasted 19 years without definite value in what you do. And I would totally encourage anyone to explore that coaching side of things in their business. But before we end, I have a question that we ask pretty much everyone on the podcast, and that is, within your time or your career, what is one of the funniest stories that you've had come across your lap within your day-to-day?
You could have warned me about that one, Sarah. Funny stories.
Blind golf was a good one, to be fair.
Yes,
blind golf.
We did play blind golf, didn't we? Yes, yeah. That was pretty good. I don't know about funny. I think probably nothing I could repeat without breaching some confidences. But yes, of course, we do find I do come across funny situations, but they're not always funny for the other person. It's the, standing on the outside and looking in, it looks quite funny. But when you're standing inside looking out, it doesn't look quite the same.
Like I said, it's been a pleasure to work with you personally, and I know that Curo would echo the same sentiment. So thank you very much. But thank you very much for coming on today, because I think that this is really, really valuable information for anyone, whether that be business, life, in general, personal. But yeah, thank you very much.
Well, Sarah, thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. And I must say, I've enjoyed the whole ride with Curo over 19 years. I don't have another client that I've worked with for so long. It's quite in fact, I don't know any coaches who've had that length of relationship with a client. So it's something that I really treasure, and certainly look forward to our next encounter, which I think is in June, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Is that our retreat?
Yes, our next retreat.
Yeah, they're good. It's hopefully blind golf round 2. We'll tell you about that one.
Did you win that, Sarah? Did you win? I can't remember. Did you actually?
Shelley and I did, yes.
Thought
not
that might have been
competitive at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did. It was such a good fun activity to do, as well as team building. And playing blind crazy golf is one of the hardest things I've ever done, I think. But yeah, looking forward to that. We always have a fun activity in there somewhere, usually where I am incredibly competitive as well. So you can tell where I work in the business, can't you? But yeah, no, thank you. And anyone who has any questions for Mark or wants some further information, you can drop us an email on podcast@curoservices.com, and we'll get those to you.
Lovely. Happy to talk to anybody.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Right. Okay, all the best. Thanks for inviting me.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.